With Old Man Winter just around the corner, is your Subaru prepared to start, run, drive, and handle everything that the season ahead has to throw at it, and do so reliably? Stick around to find out everything you need to do to get your Subaru vehicle ready for winter. It's getting to be that time of year again. The leaves are falling, the days are getting shorter, and the temperatures are dropping. It is time to get your Subaru vehicle ready for the winter months ahead, for the cold, the snow, the rain, and the gloomy weather. We're going to talk about 6 key things to look for, to prep, to do, to make sure that your Subaru is as safe and reliable as possible during these cold months. So we're going to break it down into 6 categories: battery, coolant, fluids, belts and hoses, tires and steering, exhaust system, and other miscellaneous prep. Starting at number 1 on our list, the battery. If you don't check anything else on your vehicle before winter hits, check your battery. That's like the top thing you want to check, because the extreme colds that we experience in winter are like the #1 killer of batteries. Same goes for summer. High temperatures, extreme high temperatures kill batteries. Extreme low temperatures kill batteries. So you want to make sure that that battery is healthy and going to start every time you turn the key. You don't want to be left out in the cold. When we look at a battery, there's normally 3 important pieces of information to be found there: the date, cranking amps, and cold cranking amps. Normally there's a date sticker, either of the installation of the battery or the manufacturer of the battery. Average automotive batteries have a lifespan of about 3 years. Some last longer, some don't last that long. Just averaged out, 3 years is about your sweet spot for your battery in your vehicle. So if your battery is 4, 5, 6 years old, probably going to be time to look at replacing it. Go to your local auto parts store. Normally they will test your battery for free in the parking lot. See if it passes, see if it fails, and go ahead and get yourself a battery preemptively before, again, you're stuck out in the cold somewhere with a dead battery. Now, the other 2 pieces of information you have is your cranking amps and your cold cranking amps. Cranking amps are the amperage output of the battery, measured about 0 degrees Celsius. Cold cranking amps is it measured at -18 degrees Celsius. Now, here in South Carolina, I don't really have to worry about that, because rarely do we get below 32 degrees Fahrenheit during the winter time. But you northern viewers and you viewers in Canada, this is stuff that you have to be cognizant of. So your cold cranking amps, when you are testing your battery, likely you're not going to have a battery tester or a battery load tester, but just information to give you guys anyway. Half of your cold cranking amp, say if you've got an 800 cold cranking amp battery, you want it to hold at least 400 amps on a load test battery tester for about 10 to 15 seconds to pass and be showing as a good battery. But again, not a lot of you viewers probably have battery testing components or battery testing tools of your own. So your local Advanced Auto Parts, AutoZone, O'Reilly's, Napa will normally do battery testing for free. Go ahead, go in, get it tested, make sure you're good before the cold weather sets in. So while you're looking at your battery, getting the information off of it, you also want to do a visual inspection. You want to see if there's any corrosion on the battery terminals or any looseness in the battery connectors. You want to correct any issues you find. If there's corrosion on the batteries, clean your terminals, clean them well, use a battery cleaner. Either a spray aerosol that acid etches, dissolves acid, neutralizes it, or use a battery brush to clean out the terminal of the battery and clean out the battery cable end. Make sure you've got a tight and good connection. If you have a serviceable battery, open it up, take a look at the fluid level, and adjust it, or have it adjusted by someone else. But most likely you'll have a non-serviceable sealed battery, which is pretty much everywhere. So there's not really much you can do for those batteries other than have them tested or replaced. Number 2 on our list is engine coolant. This is basically tied with the battery at like #1 most important things to check before the winter months come in. You want to make sure that your coolant is going to be able to protect your engine from the cold weather. Now, normally you'd take a tool, I'm going to put a picture in because I can't find my hydrometer, and it's used to measure the freezing point of your engine coolant. Over the years and heat cycles, your coolant degrades, the additives degrade, and it doesn't do as good a job dissipating heat, and it doesn't do as good a job protecting you against cold temperatures, so it has to be replaced. Now, if you've got a 2005 or newer Subaru, you're likely going to have the Subaru Blue Super Coolant. This stuff is rated by Subaru for a 10-year, 100,000 mile service life. In my opinion, that's a little long-winded, and I advise 8-year or 80,000 mile drain and fill or flushes on the coolant system with the Blue Super Coolant. That old GM Dex Cool back in the day always lingers in the back of my head, and all the nightmares I saw in my former life as a GM guy from people not changing out their coolant. So I always advise people, don't go all the way to the full maximum on your long life stuff. A lot of times they embellish that stuff to make the cost of ownership and maintenance of your vehicle look less. So changing it early and often is a lot better than going too long and having a disaster on your hands. Now, if you've got a 2004 and older Subaru, you're likely going to have the old traditional green glycol-based extended life coolant. This coolant has an expected lifespan of 3 years or 36,000 miles. Again, both of these coolants will be tested with a hydrometer. Basically, you just pop your radiator cap off, stick the hydrometer in there, suck up some coolant. There's a level on it, and there's little balls in there that float or a little paddle that floats, and it'll level out and show you what temperature range you are safe at. So you want to check that against whatever region you live in. Me being here in the South, doesn't really have to get worried below 30 degrees. So you Northern and Canada viewers, again, you got to be more on the ball with this stuff because you see much, much colder weather than I do. If your coolant is past this time or very close to it, you might as well go ahead and replace it now before the cold sets in. If you're replacing your coolant, you might as well go ahead and throw in a new thermostat, as it's just a nice preventative thing. If you've already got the cooling system drained out and replace the coolant, it's only 2 bolts in 99.9% of the Subarus to drop the thermostat housing and drop another thermostat in there. Cheap insurance that you're not going to have a thermostat issue with it either failing open and you not having any heat during the winter, or it failing closed and you overheating your car. It's just go ahead and do it while you're doing it. So number 3 on our list kind of carries into number 2, and this is fluid belts and hoses. Before each major season change, fall, winter, spring, summer, it's nice to go over your vehicle and just do a visual inspection of your belts, your hoses, and check the fluid levels in your car. You don't want to be stuck again with a breakdown in the snow, in the cold, waiting for a tow truck for something preventable like a worn serpentine belt or a swollen coolant hose that bursts and drops all your coolant out, or you know, that serpentine belt that decides to blow off and then you lose power steering and your alternator and your battery dies, and it's just bad times. Take one weekend, take an hour, look the car over, check everything is tight, check everything is good, make sure there's no breakdowns, no cracks, no issues with the belts, the hoses. Check up all your fluids, check your brake fluid, check your power steering fluid, if so equipped. Newer Subarus are electric power steering, one less fluid to worry about. Check your engine oil, check your transmission fluid, etc. Speaking of engine oil, depending on what climate zone you're in, you may need to change your oil to a more winter-friendly oil weight. Now, being again, me and my temperature range, I can run 530 year-round. But you want to consult your owner's manual for, again, your temperature range and what weight viscosity of oil that the manufacturer recommends for your climate region. You don't want to run a heavier weight oil if you're in 0 or negative temperatures. That's going to cause bad times and slow times for your engine to get oil pressure. So again, just check over visually, really quickly, belts, hoses, and top your fluids up if you need to. It's a good time to do it. Number 4 on the list, tires. Another really important thing, especially if you deal with a lot of ice and snow. I know I say everything's really important, but that's why it's on the list, because it's important. So it's getting that time of year where you get in the car in the morning, start it up, it's cold out, you're chilly, and boom, you see that bright yellow tire light staring you in the face, and you're like, oh no, did I run over a nail last night on the way home? Have I got a flat tire? Am I going to be able to get to work and chill out? More than likely, it's just thermal expansion. Well, thermal contraction. During the cold weather, cold months, the air in your tires actually shrinks. The molecules bundle up and your tire pressure drops. Normally 4 psi, 5 psi, enough normally to trigger your tire pressure light. Not to fear, take yourself a cheap little pencil gauge and check your tire pressures. One of those little chop down ones with a magnet, those are great to put inside your fuel filler door for gassing up. Check your tire pressures when you get fuel. Like I tell people, check your oil when you get fuel. A lot of people that do that kind of stuff, getting those little routines, don't have as many breakdowns and issues. So, check your tire pressures. Keep a pencil gauge around. Most places will put air in your tires for free. Some won't. It just depends. I know a lot of gas stations like Quick Trip have free air. So, run over to the gas station, put a little air in your tires, check it, make sure you're back at the correct tire pressure. Correct tire pressure will be on a sticker in the door jamb on most modern vehicles. I believe 2008 newer is when those stickers were mandated, but you should see it in the door jamb with your recommended tire pressure. If you have an older Subaru and you don't have that sticker, look at the sidewall of your tire. Normally it'll tell you a maximum pressure, but most Subaru vehicles seem to run between 32 and 35 psi optimal, so that's not a bad rule of thumb to go by. On tires again, if you have wear on your tires, if you've got balding tires, if your tires are old, if you have scallops, wear, anything like that, it might be time to go ahead and look at buying a new set of tires. If you're again in the warmer climates like I am in the South, all-season tires are usually perfectly fine for the winter months. But for you Northern and Canadian viewers, snow tires are pretty much a must. I know Subaru has a phenomenal symmetrical all-wheel drive system. I've had no issues out of any of my Subarus in the slight, tiny little dustings of snow that we get from time to time in the South. But you guys up north that have those mountainous snowbanks and feet upon feet of snow, putting a set of snow tires on your car in the wintertime is not a bad thing, especially with a Subaru. It can only make your traction better and make your car safer. I know a lot of you are already in the habit of having two sets of tires for a vehicle, a summer set and a winter set, especially if you've got nice wheels. Normally you got snow tires mounted up on some cheap steel wheels you don't care about because normally you're dealing with rust, slag, and salt and crap on the roads, and you don't want to mess up your nice wheel. So investing in a nice set of snow tires, which are a softer compound and help grip better in the cold, especially when it gets way cold. They stay softer than, say, an all-season tire, which is a harder compound to start with, and when it gets cold, that rubber just gets even harder and gives you less grip on snow and ice. So, again, you guys up north that deal with snow tires are not a bad idea. Even with the symmetrical all-wheel drive, you're just making it better. With that said, steering and suspension. You want to go through and do a visual inspection while you're checking everything, belts, hoses, and fluids. Check your suspension, check your steering. Just peek your head under there. Look for any tears in your CV axle boots. Look for tears in tie rod boots, inner and outer. Look for any leaks. Look for any leak from your struts, any rusted, broken components, sway bar end links, coil springs, etc. You don't want to add suspension and handling issues, mechanical issues on top of snow, ice, and wet driving weather. Wet roads with leaves on them. Sleet, snow, ice, all that stuff. It's hard enough to do with a mechanically sound car. It's much harder when you've got play in your steering, you got a loose suspension, mechanical issues. So just once that over and address anything that needs to be addressed. So number 5 on the list is exhaust. And some of you might be scratching your head like, why is exhaust on here? That doesn't make much sense. A loud exhaust, what gives? So for people in my climate and lower, it's not really a concern. This is mainly for you Northern Canadian viewers dealing with snow and ice. If you have holes in your exhaust system, it could be deadly. Let me expand upon that. If you have a hole in your muffler, a hole in your manifold, a bad leak in between any of your flanges, that is a way that carbon monoxide could get into the cabin of the car, especially if you are trapped in a snowbank, run off the road, etc. If you keep your car running and your tailpipe is blocked, that exhaust is going to come out of those holes, out of those leaks, and make its way into the cabin. If you had a good tight exhaust system and the tailpipe became blocked in, again, a snowbank or a drift, it would likely stall out the engine due to the exhaust backing up in the system. But again, guys, if you're trapped, if you're in a snowbank, if you run off the road, don't continue to run your car. You could easily suffer from carbon monoxide poisoning or succumb to it. So just be careful with exhaust leaks. Make sure your exhaust is good. Make sure you don't have holes in your mufflers, etc. I know it's a bigger issue for you guys with the salt slag and the rust issues up north. I know a lot of you have inspections and emission testing and really can't get away with having that kind of stuff, but it's just something to be cognizant of. If you get trapped, run off the road, get stuck in a snowbank, a drift, don't run your engine extended amount of times. If you are, crack your windows, get some fresh air circulating. Don't want you to succumb to carbon monoxide. So number 6 on our list, rounding out, is like some essential supplies, things to prep in your car to get ready for winter. Again, mainly for you guys up north. Blankets, candles, a lighter, a box of matches, breakdown supplies, road flares, all things that you should have in your car in case of a breakdown, running off the road, again, dealing in those snowbanks, icy conditions. Anything can happen. Maybe you're not the one that's in trouble. Maybe you're a seasoned driver, but it's always that teenager coming down the road with the Superman complex that runs towards you, runs you off the road, hits you. Anything can happen. Be prepared for it. Be prepared to be stuck. Be prepared for anything. That's the whole Boy Scout saying, be prepared. A candle in the car can help with a couple things. You can help to melt snow away if you're frozen in. It can help you retain heat in the car and keep you warm, keep you from freezing to death. In conjunction with your blanket, either a nice big wool blanket or say one of those emergency Mylar blankets. Something small, something easy that you can tuck into a bag, throw in your car just for the winter months. The box of matches and lighters, of course, are to light your candle. But again, things to think about, things to prep ahead of time. You know, some non-perishable food items like, you know, a little packet of Lance crackers or something, or a bottle of water. You know, you just never know. You could get stuck for days, hours on end. It happens. I see news reports all the time during the winter months of people getting stuck in their car, being found. You know, protect yourself. You know what they say, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. So 2 other things that came to mind really quickly is washer fluid and wiper blades. You want to put a de-icer in your washer fluid or switch to a winterized de-icer blend of washer fluid to help defrost those windows and keep snow buildup off when you're driving through snow. Also want to make sure those wipers are in tip-top condition. You don't want some dried out, cruddy wipers when you're trying to drive in the snow, in the dark, and having trouble seeing. Another thing you want to check is all of your lights, your headlights, high beams and low beams, your tail lights, brake lights, all your marker lights. With the days being shorter and less sunlight, you're going to be using those lights a lot more and relying on them to show other drivers where you're at and what you're doing, stopping, turning, etc. So from a safety standpoint, go ahead and make sure all of your bulbs are illuminating and working as they should. So guys, that'll basically do it for the video. Comment below, let me know what you thought of the list. Did I forget anything? Is there anything you would have added? Any tips and tricks that you have that you would add or want to share with anyone else in the comment section below? Let me know what you think. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.